think there's something wrong with Laura.
We can bring her back.
What are you doing?
So Bring Her Back is a new horror film directed by the Filippo brothers. I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce their last name, but they came onto the scene a couple of years ago with the movie Talk to Me, which is a movie that I really liked, but I like this movie a lot better, and I'm super supportive of these guys. They actually started out as YouTubers back in the day and made their way into the film world now with 2 horror films, so I'm absolutely motivated, inspired, and supportive of that. And even if the movie sucked, I would go see it anyways just out of support, but thankfully this movie is fantastic. I love this film for many, many reasons, but I will definitely tell you that this movie is not for everybody, and not everybody's gonna like it. I could see people liking their previous movie a lot more, just in like a general sense. I feel like this one is gonna go, you know, all kinds of directions for people. This movie is very dark, bleak, depressing. It has an overall tone and atmosphere that might not get as heavy as something like Hereditary, but it just doesn't have almost any levity whatsoever. The only levity that comes in this movie is with the relationship of its 2 main characters, and just because, you know, you feel that familiar bond. But this movie is very much about the pain of losing somebody that is close to you in your life. This movie is about grief. This movie is about, particularly, I think, unresolved issues with somebody that you love, or somebody that was very involved in your life that has passed away, that now that they're gone, you're never going to be able to talk about or resolve those issues whatsoever. And it's also about, I think, you know, the desperation that somebody has after they lose somebody, and how far they would be willing to go in order to correct that problem or to change things. And that, of course, leads characters down paths that are extremely dark and disturbing. And like I said, there's pretty much no levity in this movie. It is really, really painful. And if you've lost somebody in your life, like I lost my father a few years back, and this movie pretty much opens with its 2 main characters losing their father. You know, and there's also a story about somebody losing their child in this movie. So it goes in that direction. And if those are places that you don't want to see and you don't want to be touched on right now, and it's just not something you feel like you want to involve yourself in, this is not like a fun, over-the-top, crazy horror movie like that. It's very much seeped within the idea of grief and pain. But I loved it. I loved it because it felt honest. It felt honest. It felt true, you know? And I think that for me personally, one of the ways that I find a lot of catharsis with ideas like this is through art. It's through storytelling. It's through media, whether it's through a movie or whether it's through a TV show or a book or a manga or anything that I'm reading. You know, that has always been kind of the way that I cope with stuff, through storytelling, whether it's stories that already exist or creating my own. So for me, I thought seeing these ideas explored in a movie like this was actually something that worked very well for me. It's something that I kind of was craving to see in a weird, messed up, you know, kind of wild kind of way. This was something that I had been wanting to see for a while. I don't know what that says about me, but I think it's the truth. Now, although I would say that overall, this is very much like I would say this is a little bit more of a drama than it is a horror movie. However, don't get it twisted. There is a lot of specific, like, horror ritual sacrifice kind of shit going on in this movie. You know, blood, gore effects, a little bit of a possession sort of thing happening. I don't want to give too much away, but it will give you your horror fix. Like, as much as it's about characters that are really dealing with pain and grief and saying goodbye to somebody, it really does deliver on all the horror stuff too. So don't let me sell you short on it like that. I don't really want to tell you guys the entire plot. I'm going to talk about spoilers at the end of this video, but I'll warn you guys. But I went into this movie not really knowing anything. I was already a fan of their first movie. I didn't watch the trailers for this. I already was on board because I really want to go into as many movies blind as possible, because that's when I find that I have the best movie going experience. So I didn't watch any trailers. I knew obviously from the title of the movie and the poster that has a child on the poster and it's called Bring Her Back. I kind of put 2 and 2 together and assumed what the movie was going to be about in a general sense, but I didn't know the story, I didn't know the characters, I didn't know the process, I didn't know what was going to go on, and I think that that might be the best way to step into the movie, with the awareness that this movie is very dark and depressing and deals with the idea of losing people and grief and unresolved issues. And so, like, I don't know, put that trigger warning on there, I guess, if you want to know before you go in. But I really do think that this movie works very well not knowing. Having said that, though, just because this is a review video, I'll give you the general premise, and I'll try not to say too much, but just in the most general sense, you have two main characters, Andy and Piper. Andy is just about to turn 18. He's literally 3 months away, and Piper is his younger sister, and she deals with a disability of this vision impairment. She's not completely blind, but she can pretty much only see in, like, shapes and colors. Like, she has just a disability that works to the advantage of the storytelling of this movie. And interesting to kind of put in here, to put a character that, all this crazy stuff is happening around her, but she can't actually see it. So it's like, you can't prove it to her until things happen later. But anyways, so they get put into foster care. And what sucks is that Andy is just about to turn 18. So if he was 18, he'd be able to be her legal guardian. But because he's just shy of it, Andy has a little bit of a troubled past. The Child Protective Services, they put them both in foster care, right? And he has to be good, and he has to be perceived good in these next 3 months if they want to consider him to be her guardian. So they get put into this house with a character played by Sally Hawkins, who, her performance in this movie, it sells the entire thing. She's amazing, because you've probably had this moment where you're around somebody that is so, like, peppy and energetic and positive and super nice, and everybody likes them, and they have such a good reputation, and they've done good things for people in the past, and yada, 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 but, like, you just know something's weird about them, right? Like, I don't know if I'm the only one, but, like, you ever just been around those people that are so obnoxiously upbeat that they got to be doing some weird fucked up shit behind the scenes? That is this character. And so you're in this troubled situation where Piper can't really see anything that's going on, and Andy is very desperate to be her protector because he's her older brother, and he's trying very hard to do the right thing, and strange things start happening in this house. And one of the strangest is a child that this woman already has adopted, who is like this mute kid that always is walking around and just staring and standing in strange places. He doesn't speak, but he's also always locked up in his room, and she doesn't want to let him outside too far. And he's just a weird kid, right? And you've seen weird kids, right? When you were a teenager or a kid, like, there's always that weird kid that's just, like, sticking his finger in his mouth and, like, standing, staring out the window. He's just a weird kid, right? And that's the thing, is, like, there are so many things in this movie where things are just a little bit off, and it's, like, enough to make you feel like you're going crazy. And that's sort of what Andy is experiencing in this movie, is that he is here for his sister, and he wants to make the best of the situation, but just things get stranger and stranger, and he starts, disconnecting more and more with different things that are happening to him along the way. And then in the meantime, your guardian, this woman, is just so happy and cheerful and just doing all the right things, knows all the right people, but you just know she's up to something. Now, both Andy and Piper and the woman that adopts them are dealing with grief in very different ways, but they're going through essentially the same experience, but opposite. One losing a parent and one losing a child. And now they're kind of thrown in together. And then you think to yourself, how far would you go to really reconcile this? How far would you go to bring the person you love back if you could? I don't think that's a spoiler. That's the title of the movie. So obviously things are in motion to perhaps make that happen. But in the meantime, Andy and Piper are at the mercy of whatever this woman is deciding to do. And as things begin to unravel, it gets more and more fucked up, to the point where there are going to be moments in this movie where you're looking at the screen just like, ugh, there's moments where it makes you cringe, where characters do things either to themselves or to each other, and it just makes you want to, like, wince and close your eyes and just, like, not really think about it too hard. And of course, there's the other element too, where there's sort of a video footage, VHS tape style video that a character is watching that shows even more elaborate sequences. I'm trying to be as vague as possible. Just really disgusting shit, but in that VHS poor tape quality, which makes it feel grittier and grimier, more realistic, and something that could always be happening lurking in somebody's basement somewhere. People could be up to these activities. Who knows? I do think Sally Hawkins is the standout in this movie. She does an incredible job, and you can understand her character even with all of the weird decisions that she makes. And she's also terrifying. Like, she's personable and nice, and you want to be around her, but she's also able to portray this depravity and desperation that you really feel strongly within her. Despite everything else going on, and you see how much somebody can change over time, and what, dealing with death and loss does to somebody. And like, how, if you aren't capable of coping with these things, if you aren't capable of moving on, just how much, it makes you dwell within yourself, and how much that you'd be willing to take it out on other people in order to just kind of give yourself some kind of relief and comfort, all in the name of doing it for somebody else, but really deep down, you're doing it because of yourself. And she's able to give all of these little nuances in her performance of something that at one point in the movie, you just see her as the most horrific person of all time. But then at another point in the movie, you look at her and you're just like, I get it. Like, I understand her. I don't agree with what she's doing, but like, it's hard not to feel a little bit sympathetic for her. But at the same time, you want her to fucking die. And to portray a character like that and to pull that off is a really incredible thing. And I think she does a phenomenal job here. Now, other than that, I don't want to give anything else away. I probably already have, according to some people and according to what some people consider a spoiler. So I'll just stop there for now. All I'm saying is that I really love this movie, but go into it knowing that this is going to be dark. It's going to be depressing. It's going to have an atmosphere of just kind of pain, tension, misery the entire way through. Very little levity. There is levity in the sense of Andy and Piper being siblings, and they have that natural back and forth, and there's some funny moments between them, but that's just like, beyond that, like, the last 15-20 minutes of this movie, I mean, I was practically on the verge of tears. I saw it with my girlfriend. She was crying. This movie might make you cry at the end. It's a horror movie that might make you cry at the end. So there you go. All right, so from here on out, I'm going to talk about spoilers. I'm going to go into some specifics of the movie. So if you guys don't want to know, if you don't want to know spoilers, you haven't seen the movie, click away now. You have been warned. So yeah, let's go into it and talk about it. So there's a few things I want to say about this film, but let's just talk about with the ritual itself. Okay, so there is a ritual to try to bring Sally Hawkins' daughter back from the dead in this movie. That is obviously the ongoing threat of the entire film, but it's never explicitly stated to you what this ritual entails. In fact, what I liked about this movie is it seemed as though her character didn't even really know if she was doing it right. All she has, and we don't know how she got this, and to be honest, this is one of those things in movies that, like, I don't really even care. Like, it doesn't matter to me how she got the videotape. She just has it, okay? Maybe it's explained in some kind of subtle detail in the movie that I missed only watching it one time, but whatever. She has this videotape of this ritual that people have done to bring their loved ones back from the dead. And the way that it's all shot, like I said, with the VHS footage and the very, gritty, the tracking, going off from time to time. And she's always going back in her room and like rewinding the tape and playing the scene over again. Like she's trying to figure out how to do this ritual right. And apparently, at least this is what I got from only watching the movie one time. It all has to take place within this like sacred circle. She draws this circle around her entire house, and it seems as though she needs to have a vessel to take the soul from the dead body of her daughter and put it into a new body. And that's what this weird shirtless child that doesn't speak is in the movie. This is what she calls an angel to transfer the soul. And there's a lot of mystery in this in the entire film because, at first I was thinking, oh, this is her daughter. She just shaved her head and is calling her a boy. I thought, maybe this was like a soulless version of her daughter. But the way that I understood it at the end of the movie, where this thing keeps like sucking on the dead body and then its like stomach grows bigger and bigger, it seemed like this was just basically a transfer device. So she basically kidnaps this kid. Because this kid's gone missing. She kidnaps one kid, so she ruins another family's life. Like her life is ruined because she lost her daughter, and then she ruins another mother's life by kidnapping her child, and then she's going to ruin our main characters' lives by using the girl Piper as the vessel to put the soul into. But a lot of things have to be in place before that happens. I don't know how long the transfer body has to exist, and also she's waiting for the pool to fill up in the backyard because the new body has to die in the exact same way as her daughter died for her to bring her back. So there's all these like little things that are happening. And in the meantime, she's trying to drive a wedge between Piper and Andy, making it seem like Andy's some abusive asshole that's like hitting her in her sleep and doing all these things to her. And you feel so bad for Piper because she can't see anything. She's basically blind. But anyways, in the meantime, this like child body that is the transfer device demon angel, whatever it is, there's also another very very quick shot where Andy is like taking a picture of the kid, and in the phone, there's no close-up shot of this, you can only barely see it, but in the phone the face is all like distorted and demonic, and it's like there's little subtle things like that throughout the whole movie, and I love how it did that. I love how it didn't explain anything to you outright. I really like how all of the explanation for this ritual is done with Sally Hawkins' character just doing it. But I also, because of that, loved how she was trying to figure it out on the fly, where it seemed like she wasn't an expert. She was watching this tape over and over. She's like, what do I do? What do I do? What's the next thing? How do I fix this problem? It makes it even worse because it's like some like, you don't even have some kind of like expert shaman here. You just have some distraught mother just trying to do her best to copy what she sees from, essentially it's like a YouTube tutorial demonic ritual, is basically what you're getting. But the longer this vessel exists, it seems like it just starts to get restless. There's a scene where it takes a knife and just starts gnawing on it. And that's one of those scenes that makes you cringe, and it's like biting the table and its teeth are breaking. And it's like, there's scenes where it's like peeling the skin off of itself. And it's just like, it's just this thing that's like waiting around to do its job, and in the meantime it's destroying this young boy's body. But I think the thing for me that really pulled it all together was the last 15 minutes. You go through a whole wave of different emotions here where, first Andy is killed off, which is tragic, and I almost like hated that decision, but where it went afterwards, I really, really liked it, where she is trying to do this ritual and she is trying to drown Piper, and Piper screams out, "Mommy," and like, I'm not a parent, right? But like, I imagine the last thing that you would ever want to hear is your child screaming in pain and screaming like they're going to die. And at this point, Sally Hawkins' character had already been through that, and she doesn't like want to kill her. Right? She doesn't want to kill Piper, really, but like she's going to do it to bring her daughter back. But when she hears her scream, "Mommy," it just breaks her. And it broke me as an audience member. I was just like, I'm not even a parent, but I just hearing that, I'm like, God damn. Like, there's no, if you have any semblance of a soul, like there's no way you would be able to go through with it. And she doesn't. And the way that she drags out her daughter's body and lays with it in the pool, in just this mess of sadness. And it's so tragic. But I felt like it worked for me because that's the emotion that the movie needed. It's like people, sometimes, look, I love a good, fun, silly horror movie as much as the next person, right? Slashers are like my favorite genre of all time. But I like the idea that we can get this serious and sad with a movie like this. Like, we can talk about these issues. Like, horror is a vessel to talk about some of the darkest things that humanity has to go through. And that's one of the reasons why I think we like horror so much, is because it allows us to see the darker side of humanity without having to actively experience it. But then there are, of course, those ideas like dealing with loss and dealing with death that people do experience. And to just kind of understand that we're all human, we all go through it, and we don't agree with what Sally Hawkins' character did in the movie, but like, what would you do to bring your child back? It's like, how far would you go? And these ideas have been talked about before in movies, but like this one, I think has done it the best I've seen in a long time. In the realm of all of the, the franchise IPs and sequels and remakes and stuff, to go see movies like this that are original from, creators that are up and coming, from creators that maybe had humble origins of doing YouTube. I really do think that this is the kind of movie that we should be supporting. But also, like I said, I know that this movie is not going to be for everybody. Not everybody, and there is a little bit of a happy ending with one of the characters actually, but not with all of them. And I guess I'll just end with the thought that, like, I don't think this movie is overly scary. You know, like, there are some fucked up sequences with like body mutilation and stuff like that, but there's nothing in this movie that I think is really like scary other than just the idea of it. But like, for me, it works more on an emotional level. It works more on a character desperation, characters trying to overcome things that were never resolved, you know, when their loved ones were still alive. And I think that that's the core essence of this movie and why it worked for me and why I loved it so much. And I do think if you have experienced the loss of a loved one, a parent or a child, God forbid, or anything like that, I think that there's going to be an emotional chord in this movie that hits. But depending on how you deal with that subject matter, maybe avoid this one if you're, you know, if seeing those things really do bother you. But if you do get some kind of catharsis out of seeing it portrayed in a story, this one does it very well. So go ahead and tell me what you think of the movie down below. I'm sure some people are going to be like, you're crazy, this movie was terrible. But hey, for what it's worth, I think this might right now be my favorite movie of the year. It might have overtaken Sinners for me. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts, comments down below if you've seen it. If you haven't, let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you guys want to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have Patreon and channel memberships, even for as low as $1 a month. Working on the Scream retrospective right now, so you can see all the progress of that video as it's being made on Patreon for all tiers. So if you want to, do that. If not, just like and comment on the video. Share it if you want to. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.